Hello, everybody, and welcome to the channel. My name is Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy sometimes author and a very eclectic reader, although lately there's been a lot of nonfiction. Um, Welcome to the channel. You're on Booktube, and today I have a special feature for the da-da-da-da. Oh, wait, special election. Look at this. Look what I found the other day. Special election. StreamYard actually has sounds that they let you use without paying, which is fun. So I'm here because next week is the election. Da, 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 da. So if you've got a ballot somewhere in the United States, in whatever language, and you've got your voter's pamphlet, this is your reminder to get that out the house. Mail it, postmark it, drop it off securely, whatever is the best way to get your voice heard. So not only is this a reminder, I thought I'd cook up a little manifesto because I was feeling pretty positive. If you've been listening lately, you know I've had a run of pretty bad depression and I keep trying to figure out ways to rise above it, right? But the last week has been really good, like normal Margaret levels. And so I'm feeling like I want to build on that. And so I cooked up, as I said, this manifesto. You may or may not know the little backstory about me and politics. Politics and I, politics and me, is that I grew up with a mother for a politician. Sorry, politician for a mother. You can see I'm a little nervous today to talk about politics stuff. I broke out the special blazer. So yeah, so bear with me. And if this is your first time to the channel, bear with me. As I said, I appreciate it. So the backstory is that my political engagement has waxed and waned. I grew up with a mother who is a local politician and very outspoken and very fighting for the rights in the community type mother, which is great. And as far as Booktube goes, I talk a lot about nonfiction books considering politics, economics. I have a master's degree in international economics, so I know a little bit about what I speak, but there's a lot going on. So I definitely don't know everything, and I'm constantly trying to learn more, learn better. This year, you will also know, if you've been here, that I have a series called Truth and Reconciliation for the Climate, because pretty much the biggest issue I see that needs addressing right now is the climate crisis, both because it can and will bring about the end of our civilization. The world will be just fine, but also in the ways that climate justice is not happening. And so in terms of someone who very highly values fairness and justice, climate crisis is a huge deal. So that's why I wanted to do this today. And I just have like 6 points that I was going to go through when I think about politics. They may sound like truisms or cliches, but I'll explain why they're an important anchor for me, and that'll be our thing today. So I just want to visit the chat to say hello. Alan was here earlier, but there's a clock change, so appreciate that. Ooh, and Ven is here saying notifications actually worked. Well, there's a surprise for you today. So hello and welcome. Okay. So why I vote whenever I can, right? Get that ballot in. I'm going to drop mine off, not mail it, because post office. Oh, and the final thing, the final reason you may have known that I have something to do with politics is my fall curriculum video. So I'll put that up here. I'll put that up here later. And you can see that one of my 3 focus areas is activism. So I'm trying to get better and braver in that area. But my first point, there is a lot to be done. A lot. So I just wrote the first things that came to mind in terms of social issues, meaning society problems, science research, insurance scams, disasters, education, housing needs, civil rights violations, and the overarching corruption, meaning all of these are related to corruption. So these are the top issues that I think of when I think of what needs to be done to make the world a better place more fair, more just, more sustainable, less like we're going to walk ourselves off a cliff. So there's a lot to be done. I think we can all agree on that point, right? My second point is that because there's so much to contemplate and to address, I really can't let this overwhelm or this feeling of like despair at the enormity of the task keep me from doing anything. I think at certain points, I've looked at the enormity of the tasks and sort of frozen in shock and been in despair and felt helpless, felt powerless, felt useless. And so the coming around to the realization or the like, feeling it inside yourself that you got to just do something. You can't just ignore it. You can't bury your head in the sand. I mean, can take breaks for self-care because that's keeping your activism sustainable, but letting the enormity of the job keep you from doing anything and justify doing nothing, it's not on, as my British friends might say. 2025 has been really hard. Um, it's ever since the inauguration and even before that. And, like I said, finally this week it's feeling a little hopeful again. I'm feeling a little bit like myself. And that's because I've been trying to implement this program of just do something, right? I started a while ago and I keep falling down, but I keep getting up doing it. It's like a whole signs of the cross exercise. All right. Third step, I'm irreligious. It's okay. Is pick an issue and get busy. So if the enormity of the tasks is so much that you feel yourself freezing and feeling powerless, this is like just pretend you're at a hoarder house, right? Like, what do they say? Pick a corner and get busy. Pick a corner, start cleaning, start decluttering, start sorting. And so for me, my focus this year has been climate change, learning more about it, spreading the word about it, listening to new podcasts that are about solutions, trying to get the word out about people who are doing the work, just processing it. So Marion, my friend, writer in Rwanda, has she said in the interview that we have, and I'll just like summarize this, paraphrase her words, that in America, the media may be responsible for a lot of the doom and gloom of the climate crisis coverage. And I see part of that point. Like, I do realize we're affected by what we watch, and what we watch is specifically chosen to affect us, right? To manipulate us. But I do think the climate crisis is a crisis and needs people to think about it. So taking that in and sort of realizing, okay, I need to do what I can. I need to pick a corner and chew on it. Chew on it? I don't chew on a corner of anything. No, it's pick a corner and clean, or pick an issue and do something about it. So this is me trying to educate myself more on the climate crisis, trying to change my behavior, trying to change others' behaviors. And that's my focus this year. I can only do a little bit at a time. Know my limitations, right? So Climathon is something that I jumped into co-host, and Truth and Reconciliation for the Climate as a series was something that I developed as my contribution to Climathon. And we're going to be wrapping up, I think next month, November, is when I'll do my like top 10 reads of Climathon, or top however many there are. I've read a lot of books for Climathon, and there's still some that I hope to read before the end of the year. So I will be talking about those and hopefully getting a little balance of different types, different aspects of the crisis. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And the question I have around this, because it's always good to be curious, is why can't we? What is stopping us from organizing or unifying to save our civilization? And I think those are two different questions, like the organize and unify. Do we need to be unified? Perhaps not. And how do we organize? So those are like two sort of guiding questions for me for my pick an issue point. Um, Oh, we've got a cat pop just visiting the chat here to say hello. Greg says, great blazer. Thank you. It's my self-confidence booster. The only item on my ballot is a school bond levy. Hello, all. Yes, you were anticipating a question I was going to put on my sign out message, which is leave an emoji in the comments that indicates the thing you have to vote on, right? So mine is a parks bond. Yeah. Mojo's here. Clock changed an hour earlier. Yep, same as Alan. Well done on the videos. And Julia's here. Hello, hello. Southern Californian who voted yes on Prop 50. Yay! So glad to hear it. So I don't know what emoji that would be. So maybe something with numbers or maps or something. But yeah, great job. Okay. So fourth point of this little manifesto I have is that every vote has weight, right? So if you think your vote doesn't count because you're in a blue state, like Julie is saying, it does. It has a weight outside of its numeric value, right? Even if you think, well, I've looked at the numbers, I've crunched the numbers, I look at the stats. It doesn't matter if people in a blue state like say yes or no because it's obviously going to go blue. Well, here's like a crazy scenario. We have a lot of crazy scenarios happening right now. A lot of things getting demolished, getting abolished. What if the Electoral College is done away with? What if that's like one of the ways the administration tries to influence things? And then in the future, with those things gone, we have to rely on the popular vote. Well, then your vote matters. So don't regret not doing something if it's something as easy as voting for many of us. I know it's not easy for some of us. Your vote has weight. You're participating in a system, which means you're in community. And like I was talking about with Devin, the value of being in a city where you have to be in community and you have to talk to strangers and you have to practice your decency has value. So participation in a community of voters has weight. You're also modeling behavior. If you are taking time to drop your ballot somewhere, someone sees that and says, oh, someone there is voting. That's right. I have to get my ballot out of the mail pile or whatever, right? If a kid sees a person doing that, they know, oh, that's part of being an adult, responsibility, voting, participating. I think that's all good. Every vote has weight. And then the third piece of this is the habits that it forms, right? If you have a habit of researching, using your ballot to, not ballot, your pamphlet, going through it and making sure you've read some of the fors, you've read some of the against, you've looked up the endorsements from the paper that you agree with most of the time, you've thought about the issues and maybe talked about your neighbors, you're creating habits of civic participation, and that has value. So every vote has weight. Even if we don't come to that crazy scenario that I suggested about abolishing the Electoral College. Point number 5. Okay, here I have a visual aid. My visual aid is a book cover. I read this book last year, maybe earlier this year. It's all blending in, right? Try hard. That's my 5th point. Try hard. It's a title by Max Kerman, who is a Canadian author, musician who wrote a book. And Gareth might have heard of the Arkells, but I had never heard of them. I just picked this up as an audiobook because it was about creativity. So anyway, the point is try hard. As a habitual A student, my nature has always been to want to know why and to support positive change and improvements. So I still think about this person that I met several years ago that looked at me weird when I said I wanted to change the world and was like, why would you want to do that? What gives you the presumption to think that you can make it better? And I was like, doesn't everyone want to make the world a better place? So I suppose it was good that it jostled me out of my assumptions that we're all on the same page. But I think that person was in a very, very small minority. But it still rubs me the wrong way, because if that kind of thought takes hold, that you can just live your normal life, your bourgeois, whatever, safe, privileged life, and not address all these issues, the disaster relief, the insurance fraud, the lack of research and fact-based decision-making, the fall in the quality of education, the civil rights violations, the people being kidnapped on the street, the housing needs that aren't being met because of greed. If you can ignore all those things because you have enough privilege to, then you are part of the problem. So for me, being an A student, wanting to try hard, wanting things to be as good as possible, why aren't they better? This is getting at my natural curiosity. And so this is me trying hard to try to know why. And if I know why, then I can help push on the levers that will change things. So that's my 5th point. And my visual aid. Thank you for coming to that TED Talk. And then my final point, I guess, is that I'm trying hard because this, not just my bookshelves, which are wonderful, but the world and our civilization and our joy and our accomplishments are worth saving. And if that is too grand for you, if worth saving is too big of a lift and it's either intimidating or grandiose and it gives you weird feelings, then just think it's worth making it a little bit better. This is less of a everyone can agree on point. But if you disagree, let me know. I think younger me was all about the world is worth saving. You know, the environmental degradation was something to rail against. It was something to hold people accountable for. But I'm not in that role. I don't have those positions, those levers to push on. And so I find my role being more of learning about activism, spreading the word, changing my behavior, modeling it for others, and getting to know other people, at least at this point. So current me is more on the side of making the world that little bit better in the hopes that we all do that and we all encourage each other to do that. And all those little bits add up to something. And maybe even 3.5% of us add up to something. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, that is a reference to a study that talked about overturning regimes that were unpopular, and usually it has a 3.5% of the population tipping point. Once 3.5% of a given population revolts publicly and together about something, it is overturned. So that study came out, I think, last year, and it's been touted all this year by the No Kings, by Indivisible, by 50501. So it's hopeful because we're almost there in terms of public movements. But yeah, so the world is worth saving, and the world is worth making that little bit better. So those are my 6 points. That is my politics manifesto. And let me open the gates to anyone else that wants to say something. Reminder, go vote if there's a special election where you are. This is an off year. It's not even a midterm year. It's a special elections only. So November 4th is the first Tuesday in November for American size, typically when we schedule an election. So that's why I'm here. Next week is the day. So yeah, let me just visit the chat. I had a couple more cats here. Hello. Still trying to find out about election here. Feeling burned out as last votes essentially didn't count. Go back to my 5th point. Your vote does have weight. Special session went back and decided people's votes were wrong and didn't honor them. Wow, you're not even in Missouri. You're next to Missouri, right? I thought Missouri was the worst for doing this, but geez. Yeah. And that's when we need to object, right? That's when you need to vote out those people, primary those people, surprise them, maybe find out the lawyers who are in nonprofits who are trying to pin them down in their wrongdoing, because that's outrageous. It's not democratic. Catpaw, hello. Yes, finding out most people don't want to make the world a better place. It was a shock to the system, and it wasn't that long ago either. Yeah, well, time is weird these days. It was several years for me. It was after 2016, but it was before 2024. Yeah. maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember. Yes. Cat says, yes, must save the world. It has animals. There you go. If that is your focus, if that is your corner that you're picking to start in, pick an issue and get busy. Yeah, maybe you have relationships with other folks who advocate for animals, and that makes you feel not alone in your vast red wasteland, if I could call it that. Yeah. Pick your issue. So keep going. And you may have seen I put a couple zombies on the thumbnail. Be that zombie that shows up again and again and again. Keep going. Find your corner, build your community, and talk about what you want and how you can get there. So here on Booktube, I have been bolstered and encouraged and thankful that Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic isn't afraid to talk economics as a Marxist, and Ven over at Ven's Corner is also not afraid to talk about anti-capitalism approaches. And whether it's historical and it's in my books, or it's contemporary and it's just happening all over again, it's good to know how that power imbalance is set up and how it's maintained. So shout out to Gareth and Zen, for helping me talk about those things. And that's all I pretty much wanted to say. I have current reads that I was going to just highlight, but I forgot to put up any banners. So let's do them all now while we wait for any questions or comments. And then we'll talk about latest reads, which are all nonfiction. You will not be surprised to note. So, if you're voting this special election, here's the cue. Drop an emoji that indicates what you'll be voting for. So mine was parks, so I put a little playground slide in there. And yeah, short one today. Today, I am going out to help a friend who's moving after this. So that is part of being part of my community, and I'm excited about it. I was going to invite them to a karaoke event, and they said they were very busy, and this was why. And I was like, oh, well, I can come over and help with that. I can carry things. That's a small thing I can do. So I think they have something like 10,000 tea plants to move. And it's shaping up to be, ooh, wow. Can you see that? Shaping up to be a very sunny day. So I will exchange the blazer for a t-shirt and get down to work helping someone in my community, which was going to feel really good. So let's visit the chat again. Yeah, Cat Paw agrees. This is the only world with animals that we love. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Dee Dee, how's it going? I'm just wrapping up my little manifesto on political engagement. So it's pretty short today. Well, you told me what the levy was on. I think it's school. So that must be a little school emoji. It's very small for me, but yeah. Ven says, when my eldest started moaning recently about stuff, I asked him if he voted. He's 21. He didn't. So I pointed out that the first step in any of this is taking part in the vote itself. Bravo, my friend. Yep. You can't moan unless you actually tried. Then move on and pick the battles from that point. There we go. Okay, so we've got a house and a cat in a box and dogs. Like it, Mojo. Yeah. And Ben says, worth noting, we have very different political views. Yeah. And same with my sister. So that can be very hard when you see you're not really living in the same reality. That's what it feels like for them. Dee Dee says, lucky you for the sunny day. It's dark, cold, and rainy here. Yeah. We had our atmospheric river a couple days ago, and then we dried out, and now it's sunny, and I'm sure it'll start raining again tomorrow. Good old Portland. Yeah. So I told you what I'm doing today. I told you what to drop in the comments. And I will just highlight my latest nonfiction reads, which are very stimulating. I showed this on the Live with Devon on Monday. So Oxford by Jan Morris. This was written in the mid-60s and updated in the early 70s. So it's a book about Oxford, and it's treating a lot of different aspects. So it's not really travel writing. It's more of a biography of a city. And I think Jen Morris does an excellent job. Trans author, 20th century. I don't think it's much talked about these days. So delightful, wry, witty, a lot of things I'm missing because of the British references. I look up some, but not all. Then we've got John Lewis's memoir, Walking with the Wind, which I'm reading with Tiffany as a buddy read. I am not too far into it, maybe a quarter, and it's really good. He's really good at storytelling. He's doing a really good job of centering his own reasoning for acting in the movement, and he's just making it all very real. So really good. I'm excited to talk about that, hopefully with Tiffany when we can. And then this one I just started. It's called The Great Derangement by Amitav Ghosh. Amitav Ghosh is a big fiction author, but in this nonfiction, he's addressing climate change and the unthinkable. So this first little bit that I've read is fascinating because he's talking about why does literature not able to grapple with climate change. Everything that has climate change in it is immediately ushered to the genre and the outside of serious literature canon. So he goes into talking about, well, literature, serious literature, came into being, the novel form as we know it, came into being around the same time as we started thinking everything was ordered and had rules and would behave precisely as we learned it would. And now that those rules are getting thrown out the window because we've messed up the system, he's questioning like, oh, can we really react like the world is predictable and like we have a 1950s 9-to-5 single earner household? No, we cannot. That is a brief fantasy of human civilization, and now we need to get on with things. So this is really, really turning out to be interesting. I had a bunch of meh books, and now these three are really, really good. So I'm glad about that. All right, Dark, Cold, and Rainy, Mojo says, same here, France, Poland, same. Miserable. Mojo says, my knees were killing me during our walk. You walked out in the rain? Wow. Well, good for getting out. Were you doing it for the dogs? Hi, Leslie. Nice to see you. Ven's got a point on organizing, which is that part of the challenge is how good big organizations are at sowing disagreement and opposition, especially when said people have cash to lose. Interesting. My thought immediately goes to the mayoral race of New York City. I'm sure you have a different example in mind, but in New York City, we've got a very progressive, charismatic candidate who has won the Democratic primary. And in New York, that pretty much means that you have won the general election, except that the old ghost who didn't win, Cuomo, who has all the money and the backing of the Democratic Party, is now running as an independent, which is just crazy. Crazy scenario, right? And yeah, so when there's money involved, there's sowing discord, there's all that stuff. It's yeah. Julie's got, it looks like Japan and balance and a pen. Is it Japan? Is it a different country? I think that's writing about justice in somewhere, so maybe somewhere around the world. I'm at 110 days of over 8,000 steps. That's amazing. That's a streak. Well done. Yeah. Ven says Murdoch comes to mind, using his media empire to influence. Yes. I think that the media landscape in Britain is very different. I think that it's much more state run than the American landscape, so you may be better situated than we are. I don't know, like people talk about BBC One, BBC Two, like they're vastly different viewpoints, 3, 4, whatever it is. And I don't have a grip on that. I don't have familiarity with any of those shades of difference. So yeah, like we have networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, that used to be pretty neutral, and now they get tarred with the same brush as Fox, even though they're like very different. Anyway, yeah, fair point. I just don't know how to compare the two. So feel free to chime in with more education. State run, so it's supposed to be impartial. Yeah. It's an interesting evolution, for sure. We lost that, I feel like, a long time ago. So that is my manifesto and a little bit of chatter about the bonds and things people have coming up. As I said, get out there, vote, don't be part of the problem. Your vote has weight and you got to keep going. There, I'll leave that as the thumbnail when I put it up. All right, everyone, I will see you Friday at my usual time at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight. I don't know if that will be at the same time as Dee Dee's because of the time change. I hope not. But we'll do a double tag for Samhain or Halloween. So see you there, everyone. And don't get the Halloween scaries. Get your vote out there and be counted. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And I'll see you again soon. Happy reading.